Who's this Jimmy? Who you talking about? Jimmy something? Jimmy Witherspoon?
Nobody knew who he was.
Lewis.
Jimmy.
Who's this Jimmy? Jimmy.
Lewis.
Jimmy.
Who's this Jimmy?
Jimmy Ross.
Who's this Jimmy?
Lewis.
Jimmy.
Who's this Jimmy?
Just kept on doing it.
Live from Pahrump, Nevada, the Valley of the Dirt People, it's Tech Talk, Taco Tuesday, with your hosts, Jimmy Lewis and Logan Tyler.
Okay, Logan is not here, unless Logan grew.
No, I got a little bigger, a little slower lately. But...
Welcome to Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. And it's Tuesday, and I haven't had a taco, but we're tech talking. So hopefully the sound is working. Hopefully the everything's working. We know the camera doesn't work. Look, it already froze up. I'm going to go to the emergency camera.
Yeah, it's a little wonky. Right
Yeah, so we have, as usual, your nightly technical difficulties. Welcome, Big John Perkins.
Thanks, buddy.
To the show.
Back again.
Good to have you. I think you were the first co-host on the show, right?
I was, and I actually, I don't want to brag, but I'm pretty sure we had the best viewing. Me and you, right? It might have been better than Ricky's.
It's better than Ricky's.
I think
It's
so.
better than Jerry's. Yeah, when we look back at like all the episodes and it's hard to tell because they're on so many different platforms. It would be difficult, but yeah, my best co-host then. If that's what we're going to do, we're going to stick with it.
Out and about rolling, I'll run with it.
Okay, Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. This is the show where we talk about motorcycle and motorcycle-related product. It is brought to you by Yamaha. Yamaha, makers of awesome blue motorcycles. And since I'm just an influencer, you should just buy whatever I talk about. So go buy a Yamaha.
I kind of want one.
You want one?
I really want one lately. Not the last 6 weeks, but.
Oh yeah. Okay. So John has news.
Oh yeah, we gotta.
We'll break into the news slowly. We're gonna try to get to the bottom of some things. We're gonna try to answer your questions, especially when the stupid cameras stop working. So it might be more of a podcast tonight, like the last one with Jerry. Was definitely podcast because the camera kept freezing because the guy who used to help with this stuff left this mess of a studio.
There's something about when you get older and stop liking motorcycles as much, and everything goes downhill from there. So.
I think he started chasing girls. Maybe a little girl chasing went on, and unfortunately that means that I don't know how to do this things around here, which is like make these things work.
If you guys could see the backside of this.
Yeah, well, you can. Here, hold on a second. I'll show you what this. I'll show you what this is. So this is right here. That's one soundboard, and I push buttons on that, and then there's a keyboard, and then over here there's these other buttons that you push some of this stuff, or you slide these up and down to make sounds come out, and then there's John, who's right over there, and he's out of focus because this is some janky webcam I got with Smile, John. Let's see. Here, see.
It was good. Wow.
Yeah, it was. That's the best podcast on the internet right now about motorcycles. I promise. So we'll try to fix that. So that's the camera we're working with.
Good news is we got good sound. So.
Yeah, so we have sound. So we'll just try to smile, and every once in a while the camera will catch up with what we're doing, even though I've tried to fix it a million times. So as we go along here, this show, it wouldn't, like I say, I have some other sponsors. Climb. I did not use any Climb products today because I was digging ditches and putting in irrigation pipe.
You weren't wearing that hat all day?
No, I wasn't. I was wearing a hat to keep. So look at that. Look at that tan line back there. Yeah, I was trying to keep the tan line down.
I'll have you know, I got a Climb. I believe they're called balaclavas. Like the neck gator.
Right.
And like when COVID happened and all that stuff. Hands down. I'm not not trying to sell anything here. But hands down. The best wind block for your neck while riding. It's light enough. It's obviously too hot for the summertime, but cold wind, cold breeze, getting down your shirt, getting down your jacket while you're riding on the street. Oh, beautiful.
Right. So I'm trying to fix the camera. I'm trying to make the show better. Every time I'm trying to make the show better, but I'll show you what's better. Here, watch this.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Well. It's like some of the wires that were over here, they're kind of like a little bit tangled up. And there's a bottle of tequila, John. Nice. Yeah, like this is a very pretty bottle of tequila. My buddy Doug got it. I have a problem with this bottle of tequila. Since you're not answering, it's Closer, lower sound, though I'm bitching. It's about as confusing as this. I have some problems with this bottle, too, which we can talk about or discuss later as well. What I need like a stick so I can reach that camera, and then I could change it. But I'm going to go back to see if the Jimmy... See, it must work at some point because now the bottle's in the screen.
I feel like this would be a really good product placement for RAM mounts, but...
double take mirrors. Double take. If you would like a discount code for double take, send me an email. My email is real easy. It's my name, which is Jimmy, and then at dirtbiketest.com. So to start this off, I had a question last week. A guy sent me a very interesting question about his... Is this the guy? No. So Connor says, I understand your inbox is flooded with cold pitches, so I'll keep this brief. Listen,
that's a big number.
Oh,
Jimmy.
yeah. Well, we do.
You may want to email this guy back.
Yeah. Okay. We exclusively for brands like yours, we've generated over $300 million in revenue for our clients. Then, if you've got $300 million in revenue, why are you bothering emailing me? If I had $300 million in revenue,
you might though.
You want 6 or something like that? He's going to get me a $4,000 a day increase with no ad spend. So, Connor, yeah, the CEO. If I had that money, I wouldn't be emailing some stupid little motorcycle show, telling them how much money we can make. Okay, here's the question. So, you want to read that?
No.
You don't?
No,
Logan used to read these. He didn't talk, but he could read the...
I think me and him might be on roughly the same level of good at school.
Well, Logan said he was really good at school. He told me he got straight A's.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, you want to talk about Tony Schwartz's fork problem?
What do we got here?
I can go ahead and hit it here. So my name is Tony Schwartz, and that's not me, but I'm reading this letter right now. And I just read your write-up on the work you had Kreft perform on your Explorer forks and the PDS shock. So, again, Kreft is no longer doing motorcycle suspension. They folded up that side of the business.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, anyways, Joe says it's pretty low volume. Well, Joe, turn up your volume on your end, and then it'll be louder. I think it's on our side. It's sending stuff out.
I know we're not quite through this email, but wow, Tony, way to throw some detail in there.
This is
beautiful.
This is what I was going to say. If somebody wants to get an answer, give me the facts. So he says, as much as I'd love to drop 2,400-ish on my entire suspension, I find it hard to justify for my riding ability and frequency. Well, Tony, you're not like everybody else that just wants to throw money at their suspension, I guess. You're more like me. I challenged, like when Kreft wanted to do it, I kind of challenged them. I say, hey, I'm pretty happy with my stock Explorer stuff, and they said, they made that stuff really bitchin'. And if you read the article, go to Dirt Bike Test, search Kreft suspension, read the article. You can read exactly how I felt about it. So you made a comment in your write-up that you actually like the stock suspension on the KTM EXC bikes for the most part, and you understand how to set up the PDS and the forks. That intrigued me. I was wondering if you'd give me some advice on my clicker settings. Currently, the bike feels rough, and the rear end jumps around over roots to the point where I'm losing traction and momentum. I'm trying to find a nice mid-ground to make it as plush and planted as possible. Shocker. Any advice would be really appreciated. So then he gives me all of his facts. 22 KTM 500 EXCF, 180 hours of riding, fork maintenance. None. They look great and they're not leaking. And he says, terrible. I know I should still change the fluid, which is correct. At 180 hours? Yes. Tires. Michelin Anarchy Wild. And so right now I'm just reading this stuff and I go, oh, problem number one, fork maintenance.
Dual sporty tire.
The Anarchy Wild is pretty aggressive for an adventure tire, but it's an adventure tire.
On a light bike.
On a light bike. Yep. It's heavy. Air pressure, 10 PSI front, 15 PSI rear. Okay, and so he's 5'8", 150 pounds. So he's 160. He has the stock shock spring, intermediate rider, lives in Ohio. slow to mid-range enduro. So, he's kind of telling me all this stuff. Aggressive but not wild riding. I'm not jumping 50-foot gaps, and I'm not bottoming out. We ride mostly in the woods, hills, over fallen trees, roots, creek beds, this kind of stuff. So then, he talks about he does ride it on the road, which makes sense. So he's using this as an adventure bike. And then he gives it current fork settings, which is 18 clicks compression, 16 clicks rebound, and then current for his PDS. He likes to call the shock PDS. 1.5 turns on high-speed compression, 14 rebound, 105 millimeter sag. Okay, what does all that mean? He's a little stiff on the front forks, because the way you count clickers, for those that aren't familiar, is you screw them all the way in, and then you kind of come out.
I've actually noticed a trend lately of people counting the opposite direction. They spin them all the way out and run them in.
Go in. So anyways, he gave me his phone number. He called me. And I was sitting in the line at the border crossing. I was coming back from Mexico, and I had a good 2 hours to do nothing. So I said, I'll call this guy back. So anyways, I talked to him, and he screwed them all the way in, not too much. Don't, like, that last click is kind of a little soft sometimes. Don't go, we call that 0. And then the first one that's a real click, that's 1. So 1. Okay. So he was out. So he's actually out pretty far on the compression, because I'm usually more around the 12 area. The shock was, kind of there. So here's my take. And so I have a pretty good, I can get the stock PDS forks to work good, but right away, the forks need to be serviced, and he's running tires that are stiff. So those two things are causing the problem more than likely, those are the root cause of his problems. The reason you want to service the forks is because the oil, especially if it's never been serviced, when you change it, it takes out the contaminants, and if it has 180 hours, it's probably going to need some stuff, some bushings in there, and the oil's probably pretty dirty.
Especially it's been sitting in there with 180-hour oil in it, which tends to prematurely wear out things like bushings.
Right. So the reason you change it the first time is to get that stuff that, it's like, it's just like breaking oil. It gets stuff in there, and it sands the stuff down. So you might need
surfaces.
Yeah. So anyhow, when you do that, you can check to make sure the oil height level, the quantity of oil in the forks is correct. And more often than not, the KTMs come a little bit low. Like, they're saving a couple ounces of oil on every fork. In my opinion, that's what I've seen when I pulled stock forks apart. So that way you can set it. I almost always on PDS forks on WP forks, the open cartridge ones, I set the oil level high. So I have more oil than standard, and in fact, I generally run the maximum amount that they recommend, because the downfall of those forks is that they tend to blow through the stroke, and that added oil volume makes a stronger air spring inside of there, because more oil, less air, the air has more effect, and then that holds the fork up a little bit. And the other thing, so get the oil level right, so that's going to help you. So I told him, I said, hey, you could probably change the tires, and that'll help with some bump compliance, because he's talking about them being a little bit harsh, but I'll bet you they're packing. I'll bet you they're riding down. And then when you're working on the setting, the rebound adjuster really affects the compression. So a lot of people tend to they overdo it, and so you want to run the rebound. If the rebound is a little bit too loose, then it gets springy, and I don't know. So I run the rebound a little bit open, but I don't want to overpower the compression, and then I run the compression a little bit stiffer to hold the bike up in the stroke.
Yeah, and even just, you explaining that right there, it's so easy early on when you're starting to, mess with your clickers and play with the suspension a little bit, and you start thinking and, watching forums and stuff like that. It's so easy to get carried away and get the suspension so far in left field that now you're chasing your tail with going, oh, it's blowing through the stroke, it's packing up, I'm trying to stiffen it up. So now we're stiffening up, and it's doing opposite of what you want because you've got the rebound spun all,
Right. It's you're kind of and most people don't know exactly what things do. And different forks, like Showas are different, Kayabas are different than WP, and closed cartridge forks are different than open cartridge forks. And there's all these different things. And so a lot of times, I have the quick bleeders. Even on my forks that have the adjustable preload, I have the quick bleeders on most of them, so I can bleed the air out. And it's funny because right now I see a lot of people complaining about the bleeders that they leak and they do all this other stuff. Well, you bought probably cheap Chinese ones.
Oh, Jimmy, I got it written down here.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
on my questionnaire.
Okay,
today.
okay. So I use the quick bleeders, and I will, before every ride I give it, and they build up and then give it. And if I find it being a little bit harsh, I'll actually sit on the bike and
tap them with preload.
So it has a little bit of negative air pressure inside of there, and so that can help tune it. So before you send it off and spend thousands of dollars, and there's plenty of good suspension tuners that will do your suspension for you, and some of them will sell you every nook and cranny piece in the book. The good guys can probably get you set up without having to change many things, just doing some of the stuff I just told you. Of course, the proper spring is right. At 150 pounds, he's a little bit on the light side, so the springs could actually be stiff for him. But even at his weight, I would still go with the higher oil level, and then maybe use the air to kind of tune that. And then if it continues to be problematic with a good tire, fork serviced, go down to spring rate. And then you also got to take into consideration, and the one thing he didn't tell us on here was what sag he's running.
Rear 104 0.
Oh, he did. No, he did 104 millimeters, which is not bad on that bike. So I'm usually at 100 on those bikes, but sometimes if you want your fork to be a little more plush, a little less sag, put more weight up, slide down the forks a little bit. So there's so much stuff you can do that's free. And then if you kind of start doing all the free stuff and you run out of options, then when you go to your suspension guy, you can tell him, I tried this, and this, and that'll give him a direction, and he knows what to do once he goes inside.
Yeah, even if you don't know exactly why you were doing it, he will.
Yeah.
He's a professional. He's going to know, hey, okay, you did this and that didn't work for you. Well, I know the feeling that you're chasing or...
Yeah, and he's probably talked to, and half the time these guys, they've done so many of them, and they just do something. Yeah. They do, this needs to be fixed on this bike no matter what. So, yeah.
You mean the spring conversion for KTM forks? This needs to be done?
Oh, yeah, well, you have to put Kayabas on it or something like that.
It has to be the second most expensive thing you can do to them, right?
Right. So, anyways, that was one question.
I too. One more thing. On that is, I have learned over the years is, if you start playing with it, and you're going backwards faster than you're going forward, and you're not making any ground, I like to go to the manual, find the stock clicker settings, run it back to stock, set everything back to stock, and restart. Remember your settings where you were going and what you were thinking, and sometimes I get better results by, instead of chasing my tail, just restarting back at the beginning, especially if you're newer to it. Restart, get yourself a blank slate, and then, work from there again.
Yeah. And if you, like I said, I always get the bike and I write the stock settings down I literally take a paint pen and I write the stock settings down on the shock and the fork. Mm-hmm. Like right near the clicker, I put okay, this one's 12 and this one's 15 or whatever it is. And I write it down there so I always can go back to it. And then when I'm tuning, I'm usually doing one adjustment at a time. And I go, okay, it needs 3 or 4 clicks. And I go 3 or 4 clicks and I see what it does. And I go, oh, that was better. I'll go more. Mm-hmm. And then I don't even count. And then when I get done, I go and check the numbers and see where they are. I don't care what the number is. Yeah. Just like with SAG, I set the bike to what the manufacturer recommends with SAG. And if I measure it a little bit different than the other guy measure it, it's still a measurement. Mm-hmm. But I know how the manufacturers, I've worked with them before. I know where they measure it, because I've had people tell me, you don't know how to check SAG. A guy made a tool. He's like, you don't know how to check SAG because I wasn't doing it square. And I'm like, well, this is how the manufacturer does it.
SAG is the difference. It's the difference between the two. So
it's a number, and
it's within half a millimeter.
Yeah, and so I get it. So I get it the way that I've been taught, and even though it's not the way that, so I get it. And then I kind of set it there, and then I go ride the bike, and I say, I want less sag. So I throw a little spring preload in. I don't care what it is, but when I get done, I will recheck the sag, and I'll see how it compares to the number that they told me. So the numbers are a great place to start. Using those numbers is a great place to start, but adjust it by feel, not by numbers.
Agree.
So yeah. So let's see. We have a lot of questions on our YouTube videos. I haven't been keeping track. I've been in Mexico for a couple weeks, and haven't been riding, which is weird for me because I don't know. Injured list. Broken ribs. You could have watched the last show, and every time I coughed, that was 3 weeks ago, I think. And then you're 4 weeks, right?
I think I'm beginning to my 6th week, actually. 5th week, 6th week, broken femur, several spots, not looking great.
Yeah.
But we're hobbling around, so.
Right.
Not a lot of riding either, though.
No. But we got to watch kids ride.
Yeah.
So one of my side projects is helping the town of Pahrump and the county of Nye out here, Valley of the Dirt People. We have a kids' dirt bike track that gets opened about once a month at the moment. So we had our second open ride day. Your kids came out and tore it up.
I did. Beautiful. I mean, cannot thank you enough for the amount of effort you've put into that. Just
yeah, don't thank me. Thank
everybody.
There's a whole committee. There's people that have been on the committee. They were you on? You weren't on the committee. No, you should be on because you can help. Because next,
well, I only recently got enough time to do something like that.
Right. So next we're actually we go get grant money from the OHV sticker, and people are always like, well, what does that sticker do for me? In Nevada, it does a lot. I mean, I see where all the money goes because I watch those meetings and stuff, and we're grantor. They send us money. It's awesome. And so we're building hopefully a world-class facility out here. It's at a fairgrounds. We have 40 acres. We want to have really nice motorcycle, ATV, UTV. It's an off-road facility. So we want push-button watering just like the factory test tracks.
Ooh.
That's our goal.
I would love that.
And so go get your OHV sticker. Your $20 is going to help us. So hopefully, Joe, the volume isn't low anymore. I've been making adjustments here on the side, although the cameras don't work. So we can put the emergency camera on, then you can see John.
Doing our best. So.
Yeah, we're just trying to make the show as good as possible.
Wow.
Yeah. If I put it there, how does that work?
It's working really good for me.
Okay. Yeah, you're the. Let's see. I think it's time.
Oh, nailed it.
I think it's time for tequila right now. It's. Yeah, what was that? Devil horns. There we go. Okay. Trying to fix things. Yeah, it's that time. Where's our buddy? You having any?
Yeah, I normally wouldn't, but.
Oh, okay. Because this is good. Actually, somebody
smells
else.
Great.
Yeah, somebody else on the OHV committee got me this. Doug.
Ooh. Doug
got me this.
Go, Doug Martin.
Yeah.
Good guy.
So he says he's not a tequila guy, but here's my problem with this. By the way, this is 700. It says 750 milliliters, and it's the same size as most other bottles.
I doubt that's an 800 milliliter bottle with a pineapple in it.
Yeah, it's a it's a really pretty bottle, but that's volume of tequila. Milagro, Select Barrel, Extra Anejo, good. So there we go. The chat is working. If you have questions, you want us to dive into any of your motorcycle or motorcycle product questions.
That's beautiful.
Oh, you did.
Yeah,
you don't sip.
I took it slowly though.
Okay, yeah. You notice we don't have lime and salt either.
Yeah, that's okay.
We had Janie and I did a tequila taste. Hey,
That is fantastic.
for those that are curious, I'm going to have a tequila podcast here. At least one. I'm going to do one episode. We're going to go down to Romero's and do a tequila podcast down there.
Put me in for that one.
Okay, you're coming in. Okay, good.
Yeah.
We Janie and I sampled a whole bunch. I brought back a tequila from Mexico, which was so highly regarded. We took the crown jewel of tequilas up there down to compare it against. We took the Clase Azul Ultra Anejo, and I mean, we're at the end of the rope on that one. That's going to be expensive thing to replace. So, who is your friend? Oh, Jeremy. Yeah, this is Big John Perkins. John was a coach at my school.
Did a little bit of riding there. For sure.
Used to be a professional doorman. Yep. Installed a lot of doors.
Did a little bit of that.
Did a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Now he's super top secret. Can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Yep. Currently not working though, because
sometimes I actually like to take your saying and say ex slow guy instead of ex retired fast guy. So it works out sometimes.
Right on. So yeah, John is well, let's see what bike. Let's tell a little bit about John here. What bike? So you currently crashed a Honda Sierra 450X.
Yeah, great bike.
2019. Yeah.
I must say, if you're going to crash one and then proceed to get hit by it afterwards, you should make sure that it's the heaviest 450 with all of the off-road bells and whistles. Stabilizer, desert tank, full desert tank, by the way.
Right.
You don't want to get hit by a 125 or something.
No. Well, so you came out pretty much unscathed, other than just an exploded femur.
Not a scratch on me, and I'm pretty sure the frame rails hit me in the leg.
Yeah.
That brings me to another question. I don't want to derail the topic too much here, but are you a knee braces or a knee cup guy?
Me, knee cups.
Okay. Do you have a scared of breaking a femur and dying story, or is it
Nope. So I don't dress for the crash. So this is just on protective gear. I don't dress for the crash. I ride so that I don't crash. But we all know it happens. I wasn't dressed for the crash when I fell over and broke my ribs. In fact, I didn't have motorcycle boots on because I was just commuting back from Vegas. I just decided, I'll just take some dirt. I just did and just did a belly flop. Now, and I was going, well, I wonder if one of those inflatable vests would have helped me out. But would I have been wearing it?
You wouldn't have been wearing it.
No, I wouldn't have been wearing it. So anyways, I don't dress for the crash. I was wearing, so I had some bad knees. I had one knee worked on a little bit, got some spare parts put into it.
Okay.
And so when I was doing motocross, because that's where I was kind of twisting my knee injuries were mostly twisting related.
Okay.
And so, and then when I did tear it, it was kind of unstable. The knee brace could hold it together. But I've worked on the muscles and I got it back together. I don't feel like I need the knee brace anymore. And the knee braces don't do much for the twisting injuries to begin with. Mm-hmm. I was wearing an Asterix knee brace that connected to my boot when I was doing it for a long time when my knee was a little bit unstable, because you actually had a hook in your boot and it would clip the knee brace to it.
Oh, on the inside?
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of like that.
And so it kind of helped with the twisty stuff, but still, because they slide around. But it was mostly to just stop hyperextension, the knee brace, not really to. I mean, it's going to transfer load. That's what things like knee braces and that's what helmets do. They transfer loads to different places, and you just got to decide: is it better to have the knee brace or not? And I don't know how I'm going to crash, so. If I knew exactly how I was going to crash, I could say, yeah, I'd want a knee brace for that one, or I wouldn't want it for this. But I'm a knee cup guy now. Scott knee cups that go to Dirt Bike Test. Check the test on those. Those are the best knee pads ever.
Okay, so I've been wearing knee braces for 15 years or so, I would guess, something like that.
Yeah.
Like knee brace guy through and through, and now obviously I'm sitting here with a broken femur, and I'm kind of debating on whether or not I should go to knee cups now, but the brake wasn't a knee brace brake, like the typical where it transfers the energy up and you break it about midway through your femur. Mine was crushed, so it was essentially unrelated to the knee brace.
Did the knee brace break?
No.
And it broke did any of your breaks happen below where the knee brace was?
Oh yeah.
All over the place.
It was top of the knee all the way to the hip. It was 7 pieces. They were just floating in there like, little sticks.
Yep.
But I look back on it and I'm pretty sure had I not had them, I would have had a broken femur and a new knee.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and again, you never know the crash, but I know for me, and you talked about strengthening the knee muscle and stuff like that. But for me, if I don't wear knee braces, and I have like a lot, we go to Baker or something, ride
Right.
100 miles, 100 plus miles in a day, I won't be able to walk the next day. My knee will swell up.
Oh, wow.
Just my right one. This is even prior to this injury, but it's just a junk knee. And
Yeah.
the knee brace just kind of gave me enough support that it held it together for me and just kind of kept me riding longer.
And I actually kind of thought that when I was wearing the knee braces, when I was doing a lot more moto than I was kind of trail riding and stuff, I think that my knees got weaker.
I believe that.
Because it was doing some. It was kind of because
It was assisting.
yeah, it was holding. But anyways, yeah, I'm not a
Interesting.
not
Okay.
pro or against. Clase Azul. Yeah, we had that. Those are good. Sounds like you are a flooring guy.
Oh no. Yeah, just a motorcycle guy.
Yeah, there we go.
They kind of same injuries usually. But
Okay. So shoot your questions if you have them on. We should probably try to give Trevor Hunter a call. Put him on the show tonight because I got some issues with Trevor. Let's see if we can. He's gonna ignore. There's no way he's gonna see if he comes. I'll put him on the speakerphone.
hard not to blame the guy.
Yep. With that, yeah, I don't know. I was on my knees most of the day, welding pipes together.
Yeah, my bad knees are mostly. I mean, I hate to say hereditary, but because my dad's got terrible knees from just living. But also just riding motorcycles at 250 pounds ish my whole life.
Yep.
It's a lot of impact on a big guy, but
Okay.
this is what it is.
So John, you said you had some questions for us.
I do actually.
For me?
I have a handful of questions.
Okay.
Actually.
You wrote them down?
I wrote them a couple down.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Let's go. I'm
So,
ready to answer.
As I was walking up here, I walked past this really cool XR 150.
Right.
I'm a Honda guy. I'm an XR guy.
Mm-hmm.
I love air-cooled Hondas. My biggest question with that bike is why did the pit bike get fuel injection like 5 years ago, I would guess, but none of the other air-cooled Hondas followed suit?
I believe that bike is a world bike. So it's made in Mexico, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, so that bike is a world bike. So it goes everywhere. It's a low cost.
Bad fuel.
It can take bad fuel, and they just wanted to keep it as simple as possible, and they're able to get it to meet the emission stuff. It's super lean. You can just feel it when you're riding it and stuff. But yeah, it's I think that they just wanted to keep it simple. And for the world markets and stuff, they don't need the fancy stuff and keep it cheap.
Okay.
So yeah, I got to give that one back because they don't offer the black color anymore. The black colorway is gone. And one of my test riders, Kathy, who wanted to learn how to ride, came here and rode a few different bikes.
Perfect bike.
They bought one. Yeah, they went home and bought a little XR 150.
I mean, it'll last, just slightly past forever.
They made a big mistake, though. That was a big mistake because she rode the TTR 125. She should have gone Blue Crew. Of course, Yamaha, a sponsor of this show. No, you know what? What's funny is that Honda's heavy.
I believe it.
And this is an interesting thing with new and novice and beginner riders and stuff. Heavy feels planted and connected to the ground. It's slower handling, where the TTR was like a little bit twitchy and light, kind of nervous feeling. Yeah, it didn't have the chug. It's a little more revvy. All the kind of things that we experienced riders like is in that TTR.
Yeah. Especially if you're riding a smaller bike and you're looking for a little, little pep, little happiness in it.
Yeah, and we are getting the SSRs. So we're getting some SSR pit bikes here in the week or two.
I only know SSR from like the Honda 50 days from
the
long time ago.
Yeah, the mini bikes. Now they have some entry level bikes. They have a 230 and a 150.
Okay.
And I kind of like they're kind of CRF ish knockoffs. And so what's cool about that XR? They brought back the XR name.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
It's
why
an XR.
yeah, I walked past it, and it wasn't like a CRFL 130 or whatever.
They did. They did everything to get rid of XR, and then they bring it back in a 150. And that, when I get my video done on it, I talk about that a little bit. Like, I liked XRs.
I love it.
Yeah. So Chris Reel says EFI is an emission solution in the 125cc to 150cc platforms share components with street platforms like scooters, etc. Okay. Then why is the so am I right, Chris, on the take on the XR cost? I think it's cost and just simplicity for world markets. Is that an XR80 engine behind me? Yes, it is. That is. Oh, well, there's a CR80 over there. You can't see it, but that's Johnny Campbell's.
I think
That was Johnny Campbell's. This engine right here that has an engine configuration in it. It's going to blow up. If I think it's a 126 or a 132. I can't remember. The cylinder wall is paper thin. Ooh. It was one of our Langtown motors that I built, and it detonated and knocked so hard, but it was going to blow the transmission up. Was the problem. So yeah, that's an XR. It's a
lot of power for a short
period
of time.
Kind of an XR80. It's actually the 80 bottom end with some 100 top end pieces on it, but with a stroker. It's got a stroker crank and
that's cool.
Yes, EFI is easier and costs less due to production numbers. Oh,
I feel I can believe that. I mean, with everything moving to EFI, and especially like you said, with sharing components.
I just bought a carburetor for a Honda Quad that I have here.
For $6.
For $26. $26 for and it's a carburetor that has like an extra choke circuit and it has a heating element in it to warm it up.
It probably ran great too.
Oh, unbelievable! You could not, like 10 years ago, you bought a Chinese carburetor and it had a couple pieces of brass in it, and you'd be lucky if they actually had holes drilled into them. Yeah. They just copied it. Now they're actually, so I think that they can make these carburetors, especially those antiquated ones, because it looks just like the XR150 carb looks just like that carb right there.
Yeah, half the time they got Mikuni stamped in them. That's just missing one letter, you know.
Yeah, made in China. So okay, we have some questions on our Beta 300RR versus Beta 300RR Race Edition. Which one is better? And Roy Patterson says, "Oh yeah, how much is the 300RR Race Edition?" Well, if you watch the video, strangely enough, I tell you. Well, I think I tell you how much more it is.
Yep.
I don't know if I tell you the actual retail price, but I think it's only like $400 or $600.
Well worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well worth it.
Yep. Although the stock one was not bad. And then he says, which one do you think is closer to the Kawasaki two-strokes? Well, they annihilate the Kawasaki two-strokes because the Kawasaki two-strokes haven't been made for how many years?
15.
Or Yamaha two-strokes.
10 years.
And it's funny because the Yamaha two-strokes haven't changed much in 10 or 15 years either. But it's amazing how well that Yamaha has held its ground. It has a motor in it. And if you like snappy, barky two-stroke power, the Yamaha has more snappy, barky two-stroke power than the Beta 300 on the bottom. And that's one of the things that we played around with the power valves to get that kind of YZ-like bark out of the Beta 300. And which one would I pick between the Yamaha and the Beta? Do you know that Yamaha sponsors this show? And you want me to say that I would actually choose the Beta? Which, if for the kind of riding I do, I would.
If I wanted to go have a good time for 20 minutes, there's almost no bike I would ever look at besides the YZ250.
That's why I'm riding the WR450.
If you just want to have fun and have a good time, just don't expect to have a good time for 10 hours on it. Maybe the WR, but YZ250's a little.
The WR was gnarly. Like, I raced it, and it was just like, I'm like, I wish I was on the 250. So I'm actually starting to get my 250. I'm putting my bars, and I'm trying to get a different muffler for the 250 because, like, the 450 is gnarly, but fuck, it's fun in the sand dunes.
I heard the new ones, the FXs, are quite a bit more tame than. I haven't ridden one yet, but
yeah, Trevor said not as much as you would think.
Not as much as they're claiming.
Yeah, he has one.
Okay.
So maybe they should put rubber dampers in the engine mounts to take away some of the vibration. Well, that would be if I were working for Beta's R&D team, I would be working on vibration reduction for sure when compared to the KTM. And
It's the biggest complaint.
it is
People talk about them.
for sure. Let's see. Dirt Bikes Math Garden says, Trevor, I take it you'd prefer the YZ450FX over the CRF 450 RX for Hare and Hounds racing. Is that right? Awesome review. Thanks. I don't know what Trevor prefers.
Didn't answer the phone.
Yeah, he won't answer the phone. Trevor's just dodging out on duties.
While we're scrolling here through
Yes.
questions, go question. So I'm sure with Yamaha being such a big deal here, you're watching Cody Webb build a wicked, sweet off-road YZ250, I assume.
Right.
Is that going to translate back to Yamaha to go, hey, we can build the YZ250X into a closer comparison to, say, a KTM, Beta, Austrian, any of the Austrian bikes?
Well, so like I just said, I would choose the Beta over the YZ250. And here's the reasons. Number one, electric start. Okay? Number one is electric start. Number two is 300 cc's. There's just those two things make it. That's the jump that it goes to. It still has a carburetor though, and I like the fuel. I like the KTM's. I like the Austrian bikes with the fuel injection, and I don't. There's some. I was so torn when we had to do the comparison between the KTM and the Beta. I don't even know if we ever got the video done because I couldn't come to consensus like which one do I like. They're both great bikes.
I'm indifferent about TPI, fuel injection, and carburetor. They're all good. They're all really good. They don't, there's no, I don't get on one and go, ew, this thing's got fuel injection. I'm never going to ride one of these again.
Right.
But do you think the extra 50 cc's is the breaker for you? That's your top two between the two? Is 50 cc's? Between a like say a YZ or even the Beta 250 or a KTM 250, any of them.
So if it were all 250s, then I just go, okay, I want electric start.
Yeah, of course. Which so gone are the days of real men kick bikes.
Yeah,
we don't have to say that anymore. Electric start is better.
You should make your kids kickstart their bikes. They do.
Yeah.
I just prefer for the type of. Oh, here we go. Trevor's calling it.
There we go.
Trevor Hunter, welcome to the show.
You still do that show?
What show? Do you know the name of it?
It's been so long since I've tuned in. I don't even know it still goes on.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on, I'm going to plug you into the soundboard and see if I can make it work here. So, there we go. Are you driving?
I am.
Well, roll your window up.
Everything's up.
Okay.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay.
We have some issues, Trevor. There's a lot of people that have a lot of questions on the YouTube comments, and you haven't answered any of them. So this is important because it's a huge source of revenue, that 300 million that we get each month for all of our views.
Yeah, that's how I afford my racing and my mansion I'm about to buy, and yeah.
Oh yeah. So Trevor, I take it you'd prefer the YZ450 FX over the CRF 450 RX for Hare and Hound racing. Is that right?
I haven't raced either in a Hare and Hound, so I'm not gonna comment exactly, but I'd say the YZ has a lot of advantages to it, stock.
But
like the transmission would be nice.
Right. What about compared to CR450X? Oh, we lost. He waffles on the question and then disappears into the vapors.
I'll answer that.
Hello?
450X.
Yeah, you're back now.
Okay.
Yeah, you waffled on the question and then just disappeared. Good job. What about 450X?
For a Hare and Hound?
Yeah. Too heavy?
That's a big bike for a Hare and Hound.
Or you're a small guy.
Yeah, you're a small guy. That's what John just said.
I am a small guy. Unfortunately, I'm not. I'm complete opposite of John. I'll tell you that.
Okay. So he's saying that you're slow.
That's,
He just called you. That's what he did.
Understandable.
He just called you slow.
I never said I was fast.
Hey, but John doesn't have to cheat at Grand Prix to win.
Ooh.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier to cheat than it is to actually go fast on the course.
Okay.
I might have more trophies. So
Yeah. If you cheated?
if I cheated,
Yeah. Hey, as a professional motorcycle racer, still pro. I don't cheat. Never cheated.
Nope.
I knew what the rules were, and I played within the rules.
25 feet off the track. Huh?
Yeah, whether you're racing in score and just making the checkpoints, or you're beating everybody at a rally because you got lost.
The AMA overruled that decision that Dustin Davis wasn't cheating. So technically, I wasn't cheating either. I was playing by the rules.
But did you get caught?
So that's why I did it.
Wait, you didn't get caught.
I did not get. I got caught after the fact.
Oh, after the fact. He got caught like during.
He got caught during the race.
Okay.
And then I got caught when people started crying on social media.
That video was inside the hay bale. It was good. Or it was inside the ribbon. That's what it was.
So did you have to give your money back?
I never got protested, so I didn't have to give any money back.
Oh, you never got.
I voluntarily penalized myself so that the Facebook land would quiet down a little bit.
Well, the only reason you didn't get protested is because your dad runs the show, and your dad and his buddy, they're the henchmen that run that series, evidently.
Exactly. I get special treatment.
Special treatment, yeah. That's
all the time, yeah.
I evidently had special treatment my entire career. That's the only reason I did as good as I did, because
That's why you cheated on 125s, right? Because you're going so fast. Obviously, it wasn't legal.
Yeah, I never raced a cheater 125. I'll be honest with you, and my KTM got torn down a couple times, and they could not believe that it was stock. And the worst part about that is those were factory motors. They were coming over from Austria. They were built in Austria and sent over. And they were built. This guy Stuhlberger was the guy that was building them. He built them on a dyno, and they sent them over. They were built with 100% stock parts, and I kid you not. You took that motor apart, it never ran. You could put it back together exactly the same, and it never ran the same. And it just goes to show you how important that stuff was. We would measure every base gasket and the power valve adjustment. We would measure everything to try to duplicate it. Could never do it. And if we had to tear it apart, usually because I won, because some John Brash guy who was running a big bore couldn't believe that my bike would just pass him on a straightaway, and he was lighter than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was running a heavier flywheel. I was running a quieter muffler. I was running an O-ring chain. Yeah, for sure, a real spark arrestor. I was running all the stuff that everybody says, "Oh, you can't run that crap." My bike would just. You want to know what it had? It had a frickin' sixth gear. Because that was back when the Yamahas didn't have a sixth. They only had 5 speeds, I think. And because that was. No, it was. And I knew how to, it was, the bike worked good. I knew how to gear it right and all the other stuff. I knew how to take smoother lines. I knew how to make sure that my suspension was getting me traction. All the things everybody, you just want to go buy a part. You just buy some parts and whatever. And that doesn't work, just cheat. So, hey, what's up with this whole thing where they have like a lights class in racing and you still race 450s? How does that work?
A lights class.
Yeah, like there's like score lights, and I know in score but they're still racing 450s, and then there's like, even in Grand Prix, don't they have it's like a 250 class, but you race 450s in it?
No, in the Grand Prix there's 4-stroke open and 2-stroke open. So maybe that's it. A lot of like the 250 and 450 kids all race the same class, like on Sunday, national race. So maybe that's it. But score, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I race in America only.
What about Best in the Desert? Don't they have a lights class where you can ride a 450 in it?
It's $399 pro.
I don't know.
Everyone rides 350s and beta 390s, and yeah.
XR400s.
There's no lights class anymore.
No lights class. Okay. Yeah. It's just, yeah. Who knows? I don't know why you'd want to. I mean, I don't know why I rode a 450 in that last Hare and Hound that I rode. That was stupid. I should have rode a 250. The only reason I rode it, I thought it was going to be faster than it was, but
yeah,
I could I mean, I rode to the bomb kind of in the dust. I got out of the dust, but I just rode into a big dust cloud. And after that, I didn't need 450 cc's of power. It's Yamaha power, by the way, which is a lot.
I got a second place start on a stock 250F at the first race, so power is not the issue.
Yeah, you make it hook up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Baja Bound says, yes, Score has a limited class and a 450 is legal. Okay. It's just, somebody was telling, because I was talking to this kid who he actually did some videoing for us down at Nora, and he was the lights limited champion or something like that. And I'm like, well, what do you ride? And he goes, 450. And I'm like, what? Like, what's limited? I don't know. Stack Smasher says, do you guys lube your chain after every ride? Most of the time, yes, I do. Especially if I'm going to wash the bike, and I lube the chain when it's warm, and I use it more as a water repellent. So
does he mean that, or does he mean every time the bike goes on the stand?
Piston life.
No, my number one written down question there was I was going to ask you about bike maintenance.
Bike maintenance. Okay, so what was that, Trevor?
Does he mean every time you ride it and go to wash it, or every time the bike goes on the stand, like in between motos and stuff like that?
I don't know. He didn't clarify. Stack, can you clarify? Is it after each moto, or is it just at the end of the day ride?
I mean, I don't know if it's right or not, but I know a lot of the OEMs, when you do like their intro days or shootouts or whatever, every time the bike hits a stand, they lube the chain. But I don't know if that's excessive, or I don't know.
I think, and you notice when they do it, it's just a real light lube. They don't soak the chain.
It's like one rotation.
Yeah, when I watch people lube a chain, they just lay it on, and I'm just trying to kind of coat the surfaces, and just have enough so that it can kind of sneak into the rollers and stuff. Lube the O-rings if it's an O-ring chain, or if it's non O-ring, kind of soak in there. But I use the chain lube more as to keep stuff out, as opposed to like really lube, and I think they do it because it's quieter. When you have a little bit of lube on there, it's a little bit quieter. It probably, maybe they wanted to just make a little bit of horsepower. Maybe they have nothing else to do,
That very well could be it.
You should just tell them to make you a sandwich, Trevor. That's what I would do. I'd say, hey, don't worry about the bike. I'm hungry. Make me a sandwich.
Whoever makes the best sandwich wins the shootout.
This is some with some things. Yeah, each moto is what Stack asks.
Okay.
Stack. So do you keep it wet all the time? No, I don't actually. I don't mind when it's dry, because then stuff doesn't stick to it. And it if you're in a muddy environment, it's really situation dependent. Out here in the desert, I hardly ever lube it unless I'm going to wash the bike kind of at the end of the ride. And if it's dry, if the chain's dry and everything's dry, I might just leave it till the next time I ride it. But if I'm going to wash it, yeah, definitely. So
I'm a big chain luber.
Victor wants to know, is Trevor doing the Big Bear run this year?
That is the plan.
You're going for the overall?
Well, I think the plan is to modify the 300 with all the aftermarket ECU and pipe and suspension and all the bling to make sure it's really race ready, like all those other bikes. And then once I do that, it'll be competitive for the win. So
for the win of the dual sport ride, yeah.
We're gonna win the dual sport ride.
He asked me, how about you, Jimbo? No, Jimbo's probably not gonna go race the dual sport ride. I did my one race a year already. God, I wanted to go do SRA this last weekend.
There's an SRA night race at the end of the month. Night team race.
Night team race?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have lots of bikes with headlights.
I think you should come down.
There's
a day race the day after.
Yeah, I kind of want to. I used to have a lot of fun going to the SRAs. They were some of the most, that and REM Motocross, the two super fun, just for Glen Helen stuff, were really good times. Chris Reel says he remembers Crippa. I remember Eric Crippa too. He could make a sandwich. And then T Flannel says, a public shout out to Trevor for answer some YZ450 FX questions I emailed him on. Thank you. Well,
there we go.
Well, you better get onto the YouTube channel, because Anthony Fox 5337 says, fix your audio. Wobbling effect on your voice is terrible. He's talking about me. Yeah, he's talking about a video I did, and so I went to look at Anthony's channel, because he obviously knows so much about audio. He has absolutely nothing on his channel. So Anthony Fox, shove it.
Wasn't that entire video like a helmet audio while riding?
I don't remember. I can't remember where I made it. Is 300RR versus Race Edition? Was that just me talking while I'm?
Yeah, I don't think it was a voiceover. I think that was like an in-helmet.
My voice warbles all the time, anyways. Let's see. It's Conquering the Big Bear Run. It's always fun to be the guy with nothing to lose. You can just have pure fun.
I don't know if we had fun that day, but we had nothing to lose, I should say.
Yeah. Let's see. Gas 300 EX first impressions. It would be interesting to pair that motorcycle with the Beta 300. Race with double spark plugs and KYB suspensions. Says Barident. People, they don't understand. Maybe we should just do it like all the other influencers. You just get a chick with big boobs and have her stand next to whatever you got and take a picture of it and then say you tested it. And then so you need to get, that'd be so much easier. You could get that 2025 gas and you get the Beta and then you get a girl with big boobs and just have her stand there and take a picture and then claim it was tested and then say, okay, yeah, we did that.
God, not a bad idea.
One of these girls, Jimmy?
No, my boobs are actually getting bigger, so I might do it for you. But I'm not a girl.
If I ride the couch any longer,
you can identify for a minute.
Nope, I don't want to start that. My issue is I am only 140 pounds. He has a Tenere 700. Every video is for heavier humans. I wish I wasn't a heavy human. So, because my suspension settings obviously didn't work for Kerry Walsh, something or other. And then this is where we have another thing here where that's a language I don't understand. Yeah, you might have to go answer that in Greek or something like that. Let's see. We have any other good questions? Let's see. Chris Alamango says, Jimmy, it's the WOG. That means worker on government. Do the PDS shock bikes have an advantage in a certain style of terrain over linkage bikes?
Yes.
I think absolutely. I know how to set them up for, like, most people just like don't like them, but I actually do because they seem to be ridiculously progressive, especially when you can tune that where that second piston comes in, and if you like where it comes in and you can get it good. So
okay, Jimmy.
Yes.
I gotta go.
Oh, you got to work?
It's my time at Islands.
My tie.
I'm the contract negotiations with Cycle News is Ryan Nitson. We're talking about a huge pay raise they're gonna give me to hire me away from you.
Okay.
I do such good work.
Well, ask him if it comes with a girl with big boobs, because that'll make your job a lot easier.
We can work on the details.
Okay, Trevor. Thanks for joining us on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. I'm gonna hang up on you.
All right.
See ya. That was Trevor Hunter, everybody. He's the guy that does most of the work at Dirt Bike Test. I just do this stupid podcast and pretend to ride motorcycles anymore. So back to the PDS shocks. So they don't. My kind of general thing is they don't have the range of being able to do two completely different styles of riding. Like if you set your PDS up to go fast out in the desert, it's not going to work on tight technical trails, and vice versa. Where a linkage will work, it has a wider range. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work as good at either, but it won't be as bad at some of them. That's my take. And then Mikey Burton says, when are we having a trail bike race? Well, when I get those, Mikey, when I get those SSRs, we can do that. I'll be ready to go trail racing. Actually, I called up Logan and said, bring out your crazy photo modeling kids. We're gonna go smash some trail bikes.
Nice.
So yeah, we will do that. And then Joe says, I'm not gonna say what Joe says because I don't want to thank Trevor. But like, okay, John,
we got a question up here.
Okay.
FMF turbine core spark arrestor need to be cleaned like a screen type.
Not if your bike is jetted properly and you ride it like a man or a really fast woman.
I've definitely pulled those out before,
and
the wings of the turbine were caked in carbon.
But not on a bike you owned.
No,
a bike you bought used.
Yeah.
By a.
Yeah, but they do. I mean, they will kick up.
The guy that ran 20-1,
God,
and then the guy that never got the power valve to open, and the guy that like let the bike idle on the choke to warm it up for like 3 minutes. That guy, yeah, you can plug one up then.
Yeah. I wouldn't say you'd ever plug one up, but I mean, if you're doing your packing when you're supposed to be doing your packing, like if your bike's annoying, like my kid's KTM 50.
Yep.
You brush it off when you do that, and it should be good forever.
Yeah, the screen ones plug for sure. Even with an aggressive rider, especially if you're doing like kind of technical trail, and then you kind of get on it and it goos it up a little bit, and you heat it up, and then it kind of cakes it a little bit. But in all of my years, I've never plugged. I've got some turbine cores that got pretty caked up, but generally they weren't my bikes. Like they were like somebody was doing all the stuff I just talked about, and then. Yeah, but if you let your packing get saturated like you're talking about, that can have some adverse effects. But
basic maintenance fixes.
Yeah, no, the advantage of the turbine core is that it generally does not need any maintenance. So and Stacksmester says ha 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 ha. Yeah, it's exactly that. Is our cameras working? How's the cameras working?
Looking good.
No. So we're doing our best here at Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, answering your questions. Back to the YouTube. Oh, you had another question, John. What'd you?
My question is this thing right here.
Okay.
This is my Jimmy's bike maintenance.
And you're holding up. You can go hold up the piston and show. So
a KTM 300 piston says 130 hours on it, I believe. And,
right.
And honestly, it looks great. I mean, it's got some blow by, but it's not too terribly torn up. It took a little bit of debris, but I'm sure this bike was still running and probably running fine.
It was running fine. It had a little bit of piston slap noise to it. It was a little bit of rattle. But look at no detonation.
No, beautiful.
That's pump gas running. It's just all stock, no ECU tune, none of that stuff. Completely, and look at the like. There's no buildup at all in that thing. But I was running either Redline or Rockwell were the two-stroke oils that I ran in that thing over the course of its life.
Yeah, I mean there was not even any heat on the wrist pin. That thing's gorgeous.
No, and let me see. There was one that got there? I have a bunch of pistons here. I used to know which ones were which. But one of them, for some reason, it lost all of its coolant. No, this is George's. This is the one that did the full seizure.
A coated piston, or if that's something that got real hot. But.
Yeah. This is the one that got super hot.
Yeah.
This is the one that got heated up. So I took this one out, and I don't remember what the hours were. I think it was 60 or 80 hours. I should have wrote it down on top. But wait, no, wait a minute. That's a beta piston.
It's domed.
Yeah. So that's the beta piston. This was 80 hours on a beta.
So that's where my real question lies, because I've been, obviously with my broken leg and whatnot, I spend a lot of time on the internet. And I kid you not, the number one thing I see is, the KTM group that goes, hey guys, one guy goes, I have 190 hours on my piston, bike runs fine. Next guy goes, I got 320 hours on my piston, it runs fine. And then you have the host of comments of people going, you should replace that at 5 hours like the manual says, or you should replace that at, don't stop until it blows up.
Yep. So he says, thanks, John. I'm at 158 hours. Well, it's situational. There are people that can blow up their bike and make it go away in 15 hours on a 300. There are other people that can go 500 hours on a 300. And it's just people that have nothing but, the thing is, you read on the internet, most of the people that have time to post, here's two things. Just like when you look at reviews on products. When do you do a review on a product? Rarely when it works perfect. But when something breaks, you go there and you want to tell everybody, this is effed up. And so that's what you get. And most of the people that are just on the internet, they're regurgitating comments. They're taking a picture of something that they got from somebody else's post and they act like it's theirs, and it just goes nuts. But it depends on what you're doing with it, and there's the kind of the averages. The manual's going to be some of the most conservative stuff you would ever.
Of course, they don't want to see it grenade.
Yeah, it's written by lawyers, and they just want to make sure nothing bad would ever happen. And you can go way over some of those numbers if you're treating it right. My bikes are not sucking dirt. Okay, that's number one. That's the best way to do it. To screw stuff up is just let a little dirt pass the air filter, and then it's game on. Whatever happens next. I don't over rev my bikes. That's number two. Just doing a lot of high, like not high RPM, over rev, like free revving, and especially with 4-strokes. And then I don't like. I'm if it overheats or it gets super hot, I'm careful with it. Yeah. I don't really warm my bikes up special. I'll start them up and just take off. But I don't take off. About it. I don't take off and go hard. So it's experience, it's time. Like Joe says, it takes years to understand maintenance. And then I hear things. When my bike starts making a noise, like I said, that piston was slapping at 130 hours. I could hear it. It's just after years I've kind of heard this, and when you're all paranoid because you spent all this money on this, you got a $10,000 motorcycle, and it's like, oh, should I warm it up for this long and do that, and if you're new to this, I mean, think about how many people warm their cars up anymore. That's what the thermostat's in there for. But what's the first thing the internet tells you to do with your thermostat? On your dirt bike,
your motorcycle, get rid of it.
Yeah, perfect. Get rid of it. No, it makes the bike run properly. So. That's the thing. Just
So I understand from your perspective. Obviously years of doing this,
right?
Like I said, but let's just assume that the average consumer doesn't notice when their super loud 2-stroke motorcycle starts slapping, right? Like what that noise is. It's very distinct. It's pretty easy to pick up, especially when you're riding it.
Yep.
But the average guy that doesn't know that, but he's on 130 hours, but the internet told him to go 160. Now he's going to try and squeeze 30 hours out of this thing that's clacking around in there.
I think I would have had no problem doing the extra hours, but in my and I guess I don't know this because I haven't done it. If I would have gone from 130 to 160, it would have done more damage to the cylinder. Like not damage, it would have done more wear to the cylinder, and then the next piston I put in there wouldn't have lasted as long.
Exactly.
Because my piston that's in there now is going on like 80 hours or something on the next one, and I'm thinking the next time I'm probably going to have the cylinder coated.
Yep.
I don't know. I'll take it apart when I see it. So
I'm a big. I mean, depending on bike, depending on riding, what I'm doing with the bike, stuff like that. I'm a big fan of replacing the cylinder early. I'm like 60, 70, 80 hours most of the time, depending on what it is. If I'm riding it hard, it's 60 hours. If I'm loafing around, it's 80. Somewhere around there.
It depends. It can depend on the brand or the model of the bike. Like there's certain brands that have softer cylinders than other brands, and there's certain models that have softer cylinder. Their pistons are harder, and the other ones have softer pistons and harder cylinders. And I don't know this year to year, and I don't know which ones they are, but I can kind of talk to people and sort of figure it out because there's other really smart people out there that don't have podcasts and don't go on the internet and talk, but I know who to call and say, hey, is this consistent with what you're seeing? They're whether they're mechanics that are working on stuff all the time, or people in the manufacturers that learn something. Hey, I learned something. So I have KTM 500s that are eating oil. Okay, they're using oil, and so I rebuilt mine. I had a wobbly piston. This is it right here, actually. So this was my 300, I don't know, whatever it was. I did a rebuild. It's live on the YouTube someplace. I did it live on that show I was trying to do. I don't know, maybe I'll try to do it again. But it was making a ticking noise, a knocking noise under high load.
Oh.
High load, medium and up RPM. Like, wow, that's bad. That's a bad noise. And so I pulled this thing out, and it was piston slap. Because when I put it back together, it didn't do it anymore. And everything in this thing measured to spec. Even when I measured the skirts, which really aren't that bad, but evidently when you it would make this noise.
How many hours you say this bike had on it?
380, 360, 400. I don't know. You'd have to look at 12,000 miles.
This when you start working on bikes yourself, and you. Again, this rolls back to the Facebook comments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you see the guy that goes 2 strokes are better than 4 strokes because the maintenance is easier and blah, 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 blah. What do you think it takes to do the top end on a 450 versus a 252 stroke? Time-wise different, maybe 30 minutes longer?
I was going to say 2 hours to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that much. It's not that much more.
Not that much, except the fact that this is a 300-hour piston, and this thing looks beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's whatever. It's got a little bit on it, but it's that bike was running. It was running fine. You know, like you said, you change it for sound, not for performance.
And it didn't change performance. So what I'll get to. So it was eating a little bit of oil, and I thought, okay, could be rings. Wasn't. I mean, there was no reason. There was no, like, you see these little scars in the piston, little teeny tiny lines in the pistons. And by the way, yeah, we know the video is freezing up on the internets. It's because I don't know how to run a podcast or a show. It's actually a podcast. You're supposed to listen to it. That's why you get frozen photos. Thanks, Mikey. Appreciate that.
Let you dial into it a little bit better, you know.
Let's see. It takes years to figure out you can just ride a taller gear just for the momentum. Yeah. And dirt bikes are the devil, says JB Black. Look at that shirt, JB Black, by the way. I get paid extra for that. It's a good team with a bad name. So back to what I was talking about, the oil. So where was the oil going? Okay, I was thinking valve guide seals, but I looked inside I wasn't going to pull the head apart because it looked really light. And there was no, you can see when your valve guide seals are leaking oil, especially on the exhaust side, you can actually see where it burns inside the chamber, and the intake usually has some discoloration, and it usually gets some stuff on top of the intake. The valves were beautiful. Like, where's the oil going? Couldn't figure it out.
And these are OEM valves?
It's totally stock. Yeah, stock. So it's using oil, and now I notice that it's putting it, because it'll smoke every once in a while. Does a little smoky, especially kind of on startup. And that'd be the typical, like the valve guide seals. It's letting some pool down there, and then you start it up, and it cleans it out, and then it burns so little. Well, now I'm down in Mexico a lot, like doing a lot of higher speed stuff, and it uses about 100 cc's a day, 100 cc's per 5 gallons of gas. So not a lot. Where's it going? Going in the airbox. It's going out the breather tube. So for 2 days, it just saturates the oil filter or air filter a little bit.
That thing doesn't have a plug on the air filter, huh?
Well, the vent of the motor runs into the airbox. You know, because a lot of people, like the guys that delete the emissions, okay, they vent that to atmosphere, and so you never know this because they just spit it out on the ground.
That's what I assumed.
And then dust could come up there too, but it's really hard for it to go backwards because usually it's positive pressure. But listen, so it puts it in the air filter, and at higher RPMs it's probably an oil mist, and so after 2 days of riding, it's enough oil to where it starts dripping, and it drips on the KTM, it drips down, and it goes down, and it looks like you lose your output shaft seal. And I'm like, oh crap, my output shaft seal, but you know, and this is
chasing your tail.
Because I was just putting the 100 cc back in each day and getting it to the proper level, and I wasn't overfilling it. And I made sure of it. Couldn't figure it out. So I called my buddy, who used to do a lot of the dealer services at KTM. And now he builds race motors, Charles Jersha. Charles. I can't pronounce his name. So called Charles. Hey, I got a question for you. And he goes, hey, I've actually seen this one weird thing. So the KTM, when that engine's breathing, the air pressure has to go through the center of the cam. So when the piston comes down, it creates crankcase pressure, and that pulse, it has to go through the center of the cam, which is spinning, right? And then it goes out through a chamber, out through the like on Hondas, they have a baffle that's up on the top of the valve cover. It goes through the cam, up through the valve cover, and down the hose into the airbox, right? And so it's that when it, that oil vapor inside the cam, it would kind of want to stick to things and then drain back out. But he says after a lot of hours, there's a bearing on the backside of that cam that's a seal bearing, and the seal wears, and it
passes through the bearing.
It creates a vacuum inside there.
Oh.
And because the seal's worn, it's not sealed off, so it can't go out there because it goes into a big chamber, and so it can actually suck oil through the seal.
Jeez.
And that's where it's coming. So he's like, replace the bearing. He says just replace the seal, the bearing. It's because get a bearing with the seal. He says replace that. So I'm going to try that now. So the mystery of where the oil's going, and this is like high hour motors, and he doesn't really see that many, but over time he'd seen he'd seen it happen, and it was because that seal on the bearing, it's a sealed bearing, was going bad. So.
God, just how many times did you have the head off of that bike to see that happen?
I didn't.
I mean, for him. To diagnose that and go through, like, you had to be in that motor 30 times.
Yeah.
You know?
Norman Foley says, will the FMF gnarly add too much bottom end to a Beta 200 RR? On my 2016 KTM 200 XCW, I ran an FMF fatty for the old 200 SX. Dude, you cannot have too much bottom end on a 200.
That's all I want.
Yeah. It really. I don't have any experience with that particular pipe on that particular bike, but I have found that I always get confused in this, but the gnarly. Generally, I felt the gnarly didn't do what the gnarly did. The gnarly gave it better top end,
it didn't do what it did on paper.
Yeah, because I think I'm riding it at a different RPM, like where they see the increase. I thought it should be down here and it was up here or something like that, but I don't know. But I don't think it would hurt. I mean, they always make it so that their pipes make more power on the dyno and stuff. You wouldn't know unless you try, but I don't think you're going to get too much bottom on a Beta 200. What a nice motor that is. All the tuning I did on my KTM 200s, and then Beta just came stock with that motor. But you should really be riding a YZ125 X because Yamaha sponsors this show, and you should run down to your Yamaha dealer, buy a YZ125 X because that has a slightly different ramp on the power valve, and it works really good. So I kind of want one of those again. I want to get a new YZ125, and then I want to start.
It's any different than your?
No, my two. I know, no, it's totally different because the carburetor. Because I got a new carburetor for my old 05.
Okay. Oh, an OEM one or a?
Yeah, new one that's on the 2020, 2022. Whenever Yamaha made that big change to YZ125, a lot of it's the carburetor, and so, but it's
half of it's probably a worn out carburetor.
Well, I had a kind of worn out carburetor, but it was when I upgraded the carburetor, it was huge. And Astrolita said Road Plaster City today and end. Hopefully you didn't end. Hopefully. And you think endo?
I don't know what that means.
And endo? I don't know. End. That's what he said. So, you got any other questions, John?
Yeah, but it's a pretty big one. I don't know if we got time for it.
Okay. So glad you kept the two-stroke sound in the race scenes. Nothing smells and rides like a two-stroke. We're working on getting the smell to come through our videos. So you know, Soils Man ADV. Let's see. I love the random ass Yamaha commercial in the middle of a Kawasaki bike review. Kind of a dick move, but I don't ride either bike, so. Well, Yamaha sponsors. I'm not doing. Well, actually, you know why I'm doing this show, John? Penance. This is my penance to the motorcycle community for all of the sins that I have enjoyed while riding motorcycles. Jerry, you wish you were watching this right now. This is my penance. And I've been told to do this, but Yamaha pays us a little bit of money so that I can afford to do this. I should hire a technician that would make this show work because the damn thing keeps freezing up.
That might get us dialed in.
Yeah. Okay. What's your last question? I'll see if I can help you.
Okay. Here we go. So this all stemmed from our conversation Saturday about your KTM 1090 and 1190.
So, they're all for sale. All my KTMs are for sale. Just hit me up.
So, why is the 10RA your go-to? Why is it good enough that you're willing to give up your big CC twins for a 700cc motorcycle?
That's a great question. So the answer is so I really like my KTM 950. That was a really good bike. And then when they went to 1090, it took me a little while to adjust because the KTM 950 was so dirt bike like. And I was at the time I was riding a lot of BMWs. And BMWs were very adventure bike like. So I was kind of familiar with them, but I, as a dirt bike guy, preferred the thing. And then the 1090 and the 1190 is where it started. The 1190 kind of went a little bit more like the BMW.
It was quite a bit bigger.
Little bit more adventure bike. You're sitting in the bike. You're sitting back. The bike, got heavier, got more powerful. Didn't need more power, but it's like a freaking super bike. It's like a super bike in an adventure bike platform. Then, and then I was riding all the different things. BMW made one that, God, it went away from what I liked, the torque and the chug of the BMW. They went with a more revvy motor, and it's like they're trying to be like KTM, but it's different. And so I've been riding all these different adventure bikes. Rode the Triumphs. They were top heavy. Wasn't a big fan. So I was kind of trying to find this different thing. And then KTM went to the 790. And I instantly did not like that motorcycle. It was like, okay, now you're trying to make a light one, but you're making it so aggressive, but it still had an adventure bike feel to it. But now it was
that bike was just missing.
It was an adventure bike, and even with the 890, so wasn't a big fan of that. And then I rode a Tenere, and it felt like my KTM 950. It felt like a dirt bike. Though when you sit on it, when you stand, well, I run a taller seat, by the way. Like when you sit on it with a stock seat, you're sitting in an adventure bike.
Do you have a tall seat?
Yeah, I have a Seat Concepts tall seat. So bitchin'. So if it, just these little changes I made to it, put bigger foot pegs on it. So watch my Tenere vlog. I was doing that for a while. That will show you some of the different things I did to the bike. But that bike right away, I just fell in love with it. This is what an adventure bike needs to do. I do miss the extra power when I'm on the roads. But then again, I don't want to get the 100-mile-an-hour ticket. And it's so easy to do on an 1190 and a 1090 and even on the BMWs. My 950 was, it'd go that fast, but you're just revving the piss out of it.
It shakes a little bit.
The Tenere is the same way. It wants to go 85. And then you're just a quick roll-off when you see the CHP coming the other direction. And so I don't need to go that fast, but then it's such a better off-road bike, which is what I really ride it for. And since my KTM 1190 broke my ribs, I'm going to blame it 100% on the bike.
Oh, that was the bike that...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no wonder you hit the ground so hard.
Yeah. Well, no, and the thing was I had some tires on it that I've been testing that they're not as good as the tire. I'm currently running Pirellis, by the way. The Pirelli Scorpion rallies, unbelievable. And here's probably the problem. Here's why I crashed my KTM. 100% why I crashed my KTM. Because my bike told me to be more careful, and I wasn't. That's exactly why I crashed it. But I got so used to riding my Tenere with really good rally race tires on it that was getting so much better traction than any pure adventure bike tire. And then I hopped on a bike with an adventure bike tire on it. It was a big, heavy adventure bike, and it was just so kind of unpredictable. And when the wheels went two different directions in some silt, I actually went to kind of dirt bike save it kind of thing, and the tires didn't respond, and so I ate it, landed on my...
See, my Tenere, that thing scared me because it was so confidence inspiring as a dirt bike.
Yeah, you raced it in the Virginia City Grand Prix.
It did. It was fun. But it was so confidence inspiring and so nimble on its feet, even though it's pretty top heavy. But man, when you're rolling and even slow moving speed, that thing is crazy nimble for what it is and how crazy the horsepower on it. I mean, that thing's got the coolest motor in it.
Yeah, and the motor's such good traction. It doesn't, and that's the thing with the KTM 798. It has all these traction control buttons, and I played with that thing forever, and I can never find something that's just as good as the Yamaha. By the way, the show's brought to you by Yamaha. I don't know if I mentioned that. Yamaha, makers of the Tenere 700. They had some. They made some upgrades to it. Somebody said they changed something on the clutch cover to make where the clutch activation is or something. And then I heard it got a different display. We were supposed to go ride the new one.
They changed the display a couple years ago.
Yeah,
and do it I think they added a whole button to it.
A button,
which was kind of too much for me. I like the simplicity of the single button.
Yeah,
click it, forget it.
And Joe Stratman says the 690s were awesome like dirt bikes. Well, Joe, I would like to disagree because that is another bike that I absolutely did not like was the KTM 690 Husky 701 platform. Not a fan. That bike, it's kind of like an XR400. It just, I don't even know the hell the thing's supposed to do. It's supposed to do everything, but it does nothing good.
Yeah.
It got a great motor in it.
Yeah, it's like a KLR, but it's expensive.
KLR with a small tank, although it gets really good fuel economy. Frank White says he's glad we are doing this show. Frank, I'm glad you are enjoying this show. And he's the only man I know that can start a ATK 700 two-stroke.
Ooh.
Yeah. I think maybe him, and there's probably one guy in some place in Germany that worked for Mako.
That's what we need to test. Is the oh man, what is that company that makes the? Basically, they took the ATK platform from that 700.
Mako.
Something with a P. They're making them today. They make a billet case halves that adapt either.
BRP. Is it BRP? The ones that you kind of put it on you put the cylinders on the KTM 300s?
No. Well, so you can either run their 700cc jug, which is made in house.
You don't want to do that.
You can run a CR500 cylinder that'll run on too. But they're really cool. They're electric start, fuel injected, 100% 2005. I think they're made in America or made in Canada. Or
send me a link. I want to. Somebody find that on their computer right now and send me a link because I want to know what this thing. What'd you say? PRC?
No, it starts with a P, but it's got like some cat.
Oh, I don't know. George
I'll
Justice says, Jimmy, I remember on the old Harleys, we would put a real high loop in the breather hose to avoid losing oil. Yeah, this is another trick that people would do with like on old XRs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the old, the racing four strokes, they would put the high loop. I don't. Is it a loop or just is it a full 360 loop or? Because you don't want it to pool up, because if it drains down there and pools up, then it's gonna who knows what it's gonna do. You want it to breathe. I mean,
I would run them back that way. Anything that kind of got through lost, but hopefully it would stick to the hose and drain back in there as it could.
Right. Yeah. It would drain back in the engine, and then like on the old XRs we used to race, they used to have, and if you look at the factory, Honda XR 600s and stuff, well 628s a lot of times, they had a little aluminum billet thing that it vented into there. And then another vent went out, and then the other one would drain back in because Honda would have a separate for the transmission and the engine would have separate breathers in it, so it would drain back into the transmission. So he just put it up just the high spot and then back down to the just below the motor. Yep, that was kind of common. I mean, to have on the four strokes to have a breather tube like that, and like the Husabergs, best bikes ever, by the way. I mean, how many 570? My 650 has a big giant snorkel. So the airbox on a Husaberg is on the frame down tube, and the breather comes out of the head, and then it goes right up into the bottom of the airbox in a big giant snorkel, so it can blow the oil up, and then it all funnels right back down in the motor. Because that motor is just asking to blow up. It wants to blow up. It makes so much power. It just wants to blow up the whole time. Have you ridden my 650 Husaberg?
No, I haven't.
Oh. I got two of them now.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I got two. Yeah. Doug, you have something wrong with you too, because I have three.
The 570.
570 is such a good bike. Man. I every time I just even talking about it right now, I want to go ride it tomorrow.
That motor actually kind of.
I'm gonna go ride my Husaberg tomorrow. I'm gonna go out and just go rip around. I'm just gonna go let her eat a little bit because I got to run some gas through it.
It might actually rain tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Some pretty dark clouds over by my house on the way over here. So.
Okay, yeah.
Lucky.
Back into the questions on the inner. This all-wheel drive video that my buddy Jim shot has like 4 million views.
A long time ago.
Yeah, all-wheel drive adventure bike, and people think it's fake. Let's see what other questions we. Let's see. The Hemi Phil 81 says, could you tell a difference in steering and exit steering from last year's model on the 24 to 25 Kawasaki KX450X? That's a Trevor question.
Have you ridden that bike?
I rode the 24, I think.
Okay, because I do have, I don't know, a statement or question about the Cowies.
Mm-hmm.
So, beautiful bike. Really cool look. I know that's not your main motive in most things.
I don't look at them when I ride them.
It's a really good looking bike. But
hey, wait, Trevor replied to a video here. He says he likes the Yamaha better. Of course, because that's we're sponsored by Yamaha. He has to say that.
I get that.
He won't do like me, like say the Yamaha's the best bike ever, and that's why I would get the Beta. No.
So that leads me to this Cowie. So
Right.
Obviously we know it makes less horsepower than the other ones, but so you kind of got to wring its neck a little bit. They are considerably cheaper than any other 450 you can buy. I mean, like considerably cheaper.
No, Suzuki's the cheapest one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't. I know they're bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, Suzuki went way down, but you have to kickstart the Suzuki.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially not now. But at what point do you balance your buying a motorcycle? Which think about this like you're an average guy that buys one motorcycle every couple of years.
Right.
You know, one new motorcycle. You are going to say lose out on some resale because obviously you picked it up cheaper. So you can't sell a $7,000 bike for $8,000 2 years later. That's going to be really hard to do.
Right.
And also, it makes a little less horsepower, and it doesn't make its horsepower until it's on the pipe. So we just talked about motor wear and high RPM for extended periods of time. So the motor's gonna last less time, correct?
No.
You don't think
No.
so?
I mean, I don't think like I don't think that. I mean, I don't know this for exactly a fact. I think it's like how you ride it at high RPM is different than just running it at high RPM. Because I've seen these, when they do these durabilities in the motor, they run them on a dyno at high RPM for hours and hours and hours, long time, and that doesn't necessarily hurt them. But I think it's when you're doing things like, over revving is no good. And I see people that over rev and then land off of jumps, or they're hitting hoops.
So over rev immediately into a load.
Yeah, big, snapping loads and stuff like this. And there's people that they're always hammering their clutch. So they're not only revving it, but then they're revving it, and then to reduce the power, they slip the clutch. Well, that's sandpaper. A clutch is sandpaper is essentially what it is. And that material goes someplace, and then that material starts going through your motor. It's in your oil, and your oil it might get a lap or two before the oil filter picks it up, and it like runs on the side of the piston skirt, and it runs on the cam surfaces, and these are the things that wear motors out. I don't think just running is that hard on it. And if you do the regular maintenance, I mean, most people change their oil way too much, but some people, like a good friend Chris Reel says, what's the best oil? Oil. Having oil.
The oil that's in there.
Generally, when there's a problem with the oil, it's the quantity of oil that was not in your motor. Yeah. It's or you put so much clutch material into it, or you got it so stinking hot somehow, generally by cooking it inside the clutch. These are the things that wear stuff out.
So you don't think that inherently a bike that, say you ride around the track at 1,500 more RPMs than you would, say, a Yamaha, because it makes a ton more horsepower, that wouldn't that would kind of lead you to doing more landing hard under heavy RPM, heavy load?
That would be a really interesting thing to get some data acquisition on, is to see like a bike that's a low end motor, like more like the Yamaha versus the Kawasaki, to actually see what RPMs you're riding it
on average.
It at. Yeah. And when people say the Kawasaki is slow, a lot of people say it's slow.
Yeah, I would.
It does feel a little bit muted compared to some of the other bikes, for sure. But I bet you that most people would ride that bike faster.
Oh yeah.
Because it's easier to ride.
Oh yeah.
And everybody, it's slow. Every media guy, fuck, look at me, I'm Bob bitching, it's slow.
You raced a 450 at the National Iron.
It was too fast.
Got off it and immediately said, I want a 250.
Yeah.
It's, even, it doesn't really matter where you stand there. A lot of times you're spinning the tire, you ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
And you're wearing yourself
out. I like the torque when I was able to kind of go a gear high and all this stuff like that. I mean, I liked it, but it was just every time, the problem with that Yamaha is every time I turned the throttle, it went, wow. And I'm like, no. And going back, I did look at the map I had in my number 2 map, and it probably was a little bit too aggressive. I probably could have killed it a little bit more. I should have. Well, no, I know I should have killed it more, but when I kill it, it also becomes a little bit more prone to stalling, because I do ride at the gear high, and so it's kind of a double-edged sword. And where's all the tequila from yesterday? In my belly. That's where it went, Charles. Hey, let's see. If you got any other questions, you might want to throw them up in the chat because we're gonna start wrapping this particular show up. Anthony Zucca says, "Are the separate oil halves on a 4-stroke like Beta better for extreme enduro? Does Beta have an engine and a
I don't.
transmission?
Maybe on their 4-strokes.
I know Honda has that
The
or
older
had that,
ones
yeah.
did.
And then KTM tried it for a little while. It seems like people are going away from that. Are they better for extreme enduro? Well, 4-strokes are not good for extreme enduro. So let's just start there. It would be better in that since you are using the clutch a lot more, typically in extreme enduro, that it could help. But yeah,
Should be riding a 300.
just riding a 300. Doug Derby, Rotella is cheap by the 5-gallon bucket. If only guys change the oil often, most 450s will last. Yeah, sounds good. Oil is good. Having oil in your bike,
Yeah.
having non-cooked oil in the bike is good. Anthony is actually our e-bike tester for a dirt bike test, and I think he's got some stuff. Somebody says my SP tested phone case is a good review. It's interesting because not too long ago, somebody told me I was a shill for the company. And then on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, most of the show was frozen video. Well, for the second week in a row, you are rewarded with mostly frozen video.
We're gonna have to dial.
I'm gonna put these up as a podcast only. These will be the 2 missing episodes. So this will not be the best episode ever, John. But I do appreciate all the comments and stuff. Hey, I think we have a Triumph 450 too.
Ooh.
Yeah, Scott Hoffman picked up our new Triumph
Is it
450.
the R model or the
The Ricky Carmichael edition.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, we should probably be getting some stuff up on that pretty soon. Let's see. Where did you get that intake mod? What's the name of it? Well, it's in the affordable vet build. Watch the whole video. And let's see. I hate when I leave the reverb on. Okay. Sounds good. Whoop, I just screwed something up there.
Have you tried the GYTR Super Sucker intake that all the Supercross and Moto guys are running?
I just told you my bike makes too much stinking horsepower. I don't know.
Well, it's not about horsepower. It's about parts and accessories.
Oh, it's about getting. Well, I'll have somebody send me a free one, and then I'll tell you how awesome it is. Right after I take a picture of it next to my my spokesperson with big boobs. If I had big boobs, my internet channels would be so much better. Let's see. Excellent review. I've watched so many reviews on this bike before, says Axe 2258. He's on our CRF 250L Rally, which is a long time ago. And most everyone says it doesn't have enough power and can't drive on the highway, and that the suspension is so ridiculously soft it isn't even rideable. I was worried of buying one, but figured the worst case I can modify it and make it work. After getting one, I watched your review and I totally agree with your points. As a new off-road rider at about 200 pounds, I agree with your points. The suspension is a little soft, but definitely works for light off-road riding. The power is perfect and exactly what I was expecting before watching all those horrible reviews. Well, you're watching guys that are trying to make their ego better by telling you that the bike is not enough power and the suspension soft. Watch that theme. Continue. Watch other videos. Okay, well, thank you very much. You only own it for a week, but it's one of our favorite. Insightful, somebody said about one of my videos. Let's see.
There was on that CRF 250L one. That the video Trevor put up with the KLX 300 and the CRF 300, maybe. I believe they're both 300s. At the Big Bear or
right.
Bear Run. That was a great video of guys that are way too fast for bikes that shouldn't have people that fast on them. Just having a good time.
Yeah.
Like having a good time and realistic expectations on what you're going into. If you know.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand when guys buy a bike and like part of the buying and part of the experience is modifying the bike. I mean, it's just you're kind of doing it in the name of making it better and for. I would say the majority that I see, when I see bikes like at a dual sport rider, a bunch of guys that are out riding, you see them stop at some place where everybody's stopping and they're all on their bikes. I'll do a quick little gear check.
Oh, of course.
And we had people come to the school, and I do and when people show up, I kind of do a gear check on their bike and whatever. And when they have the one, because people that come to school, a lot of them they're aware of who they're coming to train with and stuff like that. They don't come here with bazooka mufflers on the damn things, and they don't come here with just ridiculous stuff. But sometimes I see it, I'm like, oh, what's this? But when I see, there's a certain thing, there's like, you can see who's influencing them. Like, oh, look, they're running those tires, and they've got that ECU, and they've got that muffler, and oh, okay, I know where. I've seen that story told someplace before. I've ridden that bike, and the reason we don't have a review on it is I didn't have anything good to say about it. And people are like, well, hey Jimmy, can you come and test this and do that? And a lot of times I do, and then they're like, oh, you're gonna put it on the, you're gonna talk, do it on. Do you want me to? you want me to? It's like I kind of start with, well, you screwed up this and that. This was nice, but these other things, like, because a lot of times it's just a combination that doesn't work as well, like rideability and there's a lot of things. So I like bikes that are rideable. I like bikes that I can take advantage of, make them work, and I'm cheap, other than, unless my Husaberg habit would have you do something different. So let's see. Do we have any questions on? Got a quick one. Louis Zambrino says, hi, friend. I'm riding because I have a YZ450 FX, and I want to know what setup to use to do some enduro riding on my bike. The standard setup makes me feel really tired. And then I want to know how to configure the app for when I do enduro and rally. So I think he's talking about the power tuner on the bike. So Yamaha, when you buy the bike, that's the cool thing about Yamaha. Have I mentioned that they sponsor the show? Once or twice? Got it. I just want to make sure I'm
get a secondary bell.
Right. So the cool thing with the power tuner app, which is free, is you can really change the characteristics of the power, and they come with some they have some soft hitting or less hit, and then I think someplace on our website there's a really detailed video where I talk about what to change to get a certain result. Like,
how many presets do you get on the bars when you set it up in the app?
2.
Okay, so you can set it up between your custom map and your other custom map.
Right. You can change both of them.
Fly.
Yeah, you can change both of them, and you go back and forth.
Okay.
Yep. So, which is really cool. And the fact that you can do it on the fly, like some of the other manufacturers, you have to come to a complete stop, or the bike has to be at like low RPM.
Defeats the purpose for me.
Oh, yeah. Because I think your Honda does that.
Mine doesn't have anything.
Yeah. Oh, yours doesn't. The X doesn't have anything.
It's perfect right out of the box.
Okay, well that's it. I think we've done most of the questions that I remember answering. And then if you are commenting on how horrible our videos are, like the video freezing and stuff like that, thank you. And then I'll go watch your internet channel and see how many views and stuff that that you have, because I'm just like that, because I want to. If I complain about something, I generally have a solution. I mean, I like to complain about something, but then I like to suggest a solution. So I'm looking quickly to see if there's any other questions. Thanks for sharing. I have a 250 EXCF 19 model, 1,860 hours and 97,000 kilometers with a Kickstarter. When I try to kick it, the electric starter is turning. I believe that the freewheel is not freewheeling. Yeah, you should repair that immediately.
Okay. We got Brian here.
George wants to know what I think about the Aeropiece one-piece suit. It's a great suit for commuting to work on your street bike. Let's see. Brian Horton says Big John is still alive, and he's glad to see us. Brian is another former instructor from my now failed off-road school.
Should go back to riding motorcycles.
Yeah, he's a diesel mechanic now. So living the life. He wants to go ride. He's up in Idaho. He wants me to come up there and take some trails with him. I'm going to take him up. Maybe we'll roost up there in the summer. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining in. Thanks for watching the show. I'd like to thank Climb, Fasst Company, Yamaha, Bulletproof Designs. Who else helps us out here? I used to have a list. I can't remember anymore.
Do you have any Climb codes?
I can get a hold of them. Okay. Yep. I can help you out if you. Sometimes just send me an email and I might be able to hook you up with one of our amazing sponsors. With that, thanks everybody for joining in. All 24 million people that watch this show tonight. You're a smarter motorcycle rider, maintenance mechanic or whatever. And I only had 2 shots of tequila, so keeping it on the rails here. With that, John, let's say we'll see you out in the trail. Cheers. Okay, we're out. Let's see. How do I make this thing stop? Damn show.
I think you just click on it.
Let's see.